I am a retiree living in my country, Kenya. I retired 7 years ago and I'm enjoying my retirement. I'm just having my normal walk in the morning because today the weather looked very beautiful. Welcome. Today is a very special day because this is exactly 10 years since we lost the patriarch of the family, our father, and it is very emotional for me, but I had to start the day by going to church. I am a Catholic, and this is the month when we remember the souls of our loved ones, so I had dedicated mass on his behalf. Of course, also remembering other members of my family, including my mother. And from there, life has to go on, but it is usually very sad when you have to remember some of the loved people in our families, and you can get emotional, especially remembering that my dad was the sole breadwinner of the family when we were growing up, and he ensured that we all went to school. He provided for us, and there are so many other memories about my dad that I cannot enumerate, but I just give thanks and glory and honor to God as we remember him today. I recall on such a day in the morning, I had to drop my mom, now also late, at the hospital to check on my dad as I was rushing to the office to attend a meeting. And some minutes later, my mother called me to announce the sad news, and it has never been the same. And I really had to act very fast because it actually meant the name of my father completely being wiped out from the community and me not having a place to call home again. So I had to bring a brother who had left the home and settled elsewhere, and with the assistance of my aunties, that is the sisters of my father, and the only brother of my mother, we convinced my brother to come back home because we really needed somebody in that home. Otherwise, I would not be having what we call home. So it's such it's never easy when you have to revive your memories on anniversaries of the death of loved ones. But all I can say is that it's always good to look at the positive side of life. And the positive part of it is that my dad made me who I am. He ensured that I went to the best schools. He ensured my comfort. He ensured that we had a beautiful home. And he ensured that we met, he gave us what we needed as a family. And we must have been lucky because my dad was a polygamist, but my mother having been the first wife, we actually enjoyed the seeds of my father when he was still young and energetic and working here in Nairobi. And I can never forget how he loved me as a little child, how he carried me as a little child, and the nickname he had for me, my dad always called me Papa. And it's because I was named after a brother to his father. That's what happens in Africa. We name children after members of our family who have died. And this morning, I had to wake up in the morning and start my day in church. Being a Catholic, you have to offer mass on behalf of your loved ones, and this is November, the month when we remember the loved ones. Papa, rest in peace, and Mom followed you. May she also rest in peace, and all members of my family. I'm old enough, now retired, turning 61 years next week, and as I go through this memorial of my father 10 years after his death, I just want to recall the beautiful memories we had together. For close to 8 years, my eldest sister Mary and I were the only children of my father. He loved us. He ensured that we were well clothed, well fed, and he valued education. That's why at a tender age of 11 years, my father took me to a boarding school. During that time, boarding primary schools were viewed as the best vessels through which children could acquire education. So I joined a boarding primary school at the tender age of 11 when I was in standard 4. And that school really ensured that my performance was one of the best. And because of that, I was able to really sail through my education very well, get jobs, and now I'm retired, and I'm very thankful, and I'm very thankful to my dad. I just want to remember the good things that my dad did for me, so many. I joined boarding primary in standard 4, and my dad would always come to visit me. And I recall one day when my father came to visit me, he got hold of me and he was kissing me, and all the other pupils were really laughing at it because they had not been used to that kind of scene in their lives. But when we were young, my sister and I, my dad liked just holding us in his arms and really just showing us his love. And so when I joined boarding, he was missing me as his daughter, and he came kissing me, and everybody was laughing about it. And it took quite a long time. It actually made me get so embarrassed, and I started viewing just a peck as something really not very good, until now that I'm old, I appreciate a peck from any member of, from anybody who really means that they really love you. I remember one day when I was young, I don't know whether it was out of fear or what happened to me, but I soiled my beddings. And my dad used to work on shifts, and this particular day, he was on a night shift. So when he came back in the morning, I had not woken up to go to school, and he couldn't understand why. So when he came to check and found me soiled, he took me to the bathroom and ensured that I was clean. One of the things that I can never forget my father for is that I was never sent home for school fees, even for a day, throughout my education. I was never sent home for anything because he ensured by providing everything that was required in school. So it's good memories when I think about him. I recall my father's love for us by the way he ensured that we dressed well, my sister Mary and I. He would always take us to tailors to have our tailor-made clothes. And at the end of every month, my father used to bring us to town in Nairobi to shop for us clothes. And in most cases, we had similar clothes with my eldest sister. My dad would always give us some information about our lineage, and he gave me the history of how we actually as a clan got to be settled where we are today. And that is why at his death I knew that this is the end of the legacy of my father. This is the end of his name in this community, and I just have to do something. And that is why I brought my brother, because my brother is already a father to 3 sons. I am African, and as an African, that issue of lineage is very important, and I didn't want my father's name just to disappear in the village like that, because if I had not acted the way I did, I would be having no home today. So I thank God for my father, that he actually gave me the history of the lineage of my family, and I have that responsibility to ensure that that lineage is not lost, despite very many other issues which are not really important so far today. I remember when I joined the workforce for the first time, I was in my early 20s. And one of the advice my father gave me was that ensure that part of your first salary, you give it to me because I want to buy some kettle for you. I did that. And besides that, he actually tried ensuring that I am investing. By that time, the biggest investment where I come from and where my father was living, by that time he had already retired and he was staying at home. The biggest investment was investing in sugarcane farms. So I would give my father some money. He would invest in hiring some sugarcane farms and he would give me the proceeds. I come from a big family, and a big family will always have disputes of all kinds of nature, including sibling rivalry. Anytime I went to my dad with a complaint on anything, he hardly ever gave me a solution. My dad would always challenge me and tell me, Frida, think differently. My daughter, think differently. You are learned. Why don't you think differently? And actually, that kept on echoing in my mind after his demise, and I had to think differently. I had to think differently. Not only after his demise, but I made sure that every time I had to make a decision, I had to think differently. And I want to thank him that has really been something that has changed my perspective on whatever has happened in my life. I think differently. The 2010 Constitution of Kenya is something that we must really pride ourselves in, and especially as daughters. My dad adhered to it when it came to inheritance of his property. And I can't say that is actually because of the 2010 Constitution only. My dad started his subdivision of his land in 1999. That was way before the 2010 Constitution. And in that subdivision, he ensured that his first family, that is his first wife, we were only 2 daughters in that family, he ensured that we were part of his inheritance by honoring my mother with land. I can only thank him. I can only thank my dad for having done that. And indeed, it's because of that action that I can say his legacy still remains, because I have what I can call my ancestral home where I was born. I have so much to talk about my father, so much memories, so much good times, so much advice, so much pain at some times. But this cannot all be done in a few minutes vlog. I'm writing a book, and I have tried to capture as much as possible in this book the memories of my mother and so many other memories in this book. And I just need to work hard to ensure that the book is going to be ready, but it's fond memories of my dad. As I sign off, I give so much thanks to my dad because he made me who I am. Ciao, ciao. Thanks for watching.